Bonjour tout le monde. Hi everybody. Wow, this is loud. Welcome to the In Conversation with Matt Dillon, who I'll be welcoming on stage in a minute. We're going to be taking a trip through his filmography, I guess, all together, and then at the end of that conversation, towards the end, we'll open it up to questions, if anybody fancies asking some. I'm going to ask you in advance to actually make sure you do ask a question and not just make a statement, if that's okay. And I will welcome Matt Dillon onto stage in a second. Je vais vous demander juste de bien faire attention à demander une question et pas juste dire quelque chose sans point d'interrogation. Okay, I think it's time to welcome our guest onto the stage. He's an actor who's been gracing our screens for, I guess, 30 plus years now. He's a star, director, screenwriter also. Matt Dillon's here. Please welcome him onto the stage. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
This is your second time at the festival, isn't it?
No, this is actually my fourth time.
Whoa.
Here. Yeah.
So you've been coming here a while?
Yeah, I've been here, coming here. I came the first time I came to Marrakech was in 2002, which was the second edition. And I was, and I would have come to the first edition because they asked me to come, but I was editing the first film that I directed. So I
City of Angels.
City of Ghosts.
Ghosts.
It's okay. Angels, ghosts.
Okay. Have you found the city's changed since you first started coming?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been around that much, and but I've been here, since, I came here first in 1982 or 81, and it's changed a lot since then. I mean, even the old hotel, the Mamounia, and I mean, I'm sure I haven't been into the Medina. I haven't been there yet on this trip, but I'll go. And I'm sure it hasn't changed. Well, I shouldn't say that. Who knows? It seems like the whole world is changing all the time. So
should we start a little look back at your career? I wonder if you could tell us a bit about, I guess, what I'll call like the teen idol years. Is that fair?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started very, very young. I started at the age of 14 and made my first film in 78. 78 was a long time ago. It's called Over the Edge, and I didn't come from a theatrical background. I came from a family that was it was more visual. A lot of painters, illustrators in my family, so I think that the thing that got a hold of me was in that particular movie. The script was very authentic. It was really about it was a real situation about real people, real kids. And I think that's what hooked me, because I was, I didn't come from a place where I was interested in performing. I think I was more interested in reflecting something that was truthful. I felt the power of that there's something very powerful about that. And so that really is, I think, more of where I'm coming from, maybe, even though I really love acting and I love performing. I like it. I like to act. But I think the thing that hooked me was that, I mean, if it had been a film, the film was a kind of a, I guess you could say it was more of a social, it was looking at society, but kids that were fucked up, that were living sort of on the fringes of sort of forgotten youth, and and I worked with this guy Jonathan Kaplan, who was a kind of a mad hatter of a director, and he would direct us by calling us cocksuckers and motherfuckers. That's how he directed us. He would say, "All right, you little cocksuckers, it's time to start burning up those cars." And he was a lot of fun. That's how we dealt with each other. Like, it was very. I could relate to it. Yeah. He was like a big kid.
Mm-hmm. And so you didn't have any training as an actor. You were learning
afterwards,
on the job.
Afterwards, when I was 15, then I went to the Lee Strasberg Institute for 2 years. And yeah, that was mostly checking out the girls, but I did. I think it sank in. I feel like the work we did then really was a good foundation that I got from that, and yeah, it was good. At the time, I didn't feel that, but later on, it served me. It really did.
What kind of having like that lack of what's the word,
well,
like
I think
of a
very
formula?
simply was really learning to work from the inside.
Yeah.
And being comfortable with getting in touch with those feelings. We did like a lot of sense memory work. We did stuff like method stuff.
Mm-hmm. And so is it true you were scouted on the street? Is that how you?
No, I was actually when I was in junior high school.
In what, sorry?
Junior high school.
Oh, right, okay.
So I wasn't on the street. No. I wasn't on the street, no.
Because I would always think that's quite awkward.
No. I was not. And I wasn't in Schwab's, like, what did they say about Lana Turner, right? That she was, Lana Turner, the actress, they always said she was discovered in the drugstore Schwab's in Hollywood. I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the legends that always build up.
Yeah.
And so you kind of went, so you started out, and then I feel like you graduated fairly quickly to some big name directors. And
Yeah. I mean, I always feel that, as an actor, I'm only as good as the filmmakers that I'm working with. Mm-hmm. And I think what was a big deal for me early was to work with Coppola, to work with Francis. I mean, he was sort of, he was kind of a god when we were all young actors, and it proved to be a really great experience, a really great learning experience to work with him at that age, because I think with him, he really was a guy who embraced all the possibilities. I mean, in fact, when we were making that movie, The Outsiders, while we were making the film, that is when he decided to do the other film, which would go right after that. I mean, he didn't plan that ahead. While he was making The Outsiders, I think he saw that as a film that was more mainstream, commercial, and then with Rumblefish, it was more of a film that he wanted to make. And it was a completely opposite type of a film,
That's quite an interesting phase of Coppola's career, isn't it? Because
it was interesting because he had just come off of One from the Heart, which hadn't been, I think it had been, the critics were very tough on him at that point, I think because, it's sort of typical sometimes they want to, when somebody's as successful as he was, that maybe they want to bring him down a little bit. Get him back down to earth. And he had done that film, and it was a big budgeted, I think it's a really beautiful film, actually.
Kind of being rediscovered, I think.
One from the Heart, yeah. It was, he has a magic as a filmmaker, he really does, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so with Coppola, then you also move on to Gus Van Sant. I mean, these are some big names early, is that still early in your career, do you think, or were you like...
Well, I guess it was. I didn't feel at the time it was, but... I had seen his previous film, Mala Noche, which is I don't know how many people have seen that film. It was a beautiful film that he made. And I knew that this guy was a very talented, interesting filmmaker with a voice. Mm-hmm. And so when it came along, again, it was this very authentic, it was really coming from a very specifically authentic place. It was based on a book of a guy who had been in prison, you know, for robbing drugstores, you know, and that was very, you know, it was very specific, very truthful, and you know, it's like it was a film that hadn't been made before, you know, like that, you know. And again, you know, that was an interesting experience from the standpoint of the characters, right? Because the characters were really well defined, but there were four of us. There were four actors, two couples, which is kind of a classic scenario of two, like Bonnie and Clyde kind of thing. And we went around together, and we would do a lot of improvisation for hours and hours in the car, and it really helped form the bond of us as the characters interacting with each other. And we would stake out drugstores. I think we even we stole some drugs. It was kind of lame. But we did one drugstore. And no, but it was a really good experience. You know, look, there's some jobs, you know, that you feel like this is one of those jobs where I felt like, wow, this is really great. We're really doing something here. It's not a job, it's really an experience, you know, something that's very, very creatively fulfilling and exciting.
And then you got back together with Gus Van Sant for To Die For?
Yeah, I mean, that was it was a really good script. I mean, the character was maybe less interesting to me, but I will say that it was a very good script, and it was Buck Henry, who was a really good legendary kind of screenwriter, and you know what I liked about that film is it had this family dynamic, which I always love in films. I love when you have this sort of family dynamic. And this character that I was playing, there was the mom, there was the dad, there was the cousin, there was the sister, and that was kind of nice. And then this woman coming into the family. So those scenes for me were really, that was probably the thing I liked most about doing that particular character, you know.
Maybe I think we've got a selection of clips. Maybe we could send the first one, Jacqueline, please.
There was two different movies there.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to see that because it was an amalgamation of clips from Drugstore Cowboy, and you know. Yeah, that was the interesting thing about that was, you know, I'm just thinking about how, you know, when we make films, we get so preoccupied with things like matching, you know, making sure that everything matches and all the decisions that you make. And there's a scene where, you know, my character's laying in the back seat of the car, and I'm wearing a costume that was killed off like, you know, a half an hour earlier in the movie, and it doesn't matter because nobody's really paying attention to that, you know? And, you know, and because I feel like in filmmaking you can make really huge leaps, you know? And, you know, and sometimes we can get caught up on travelogue, like, you know, getting from one location, the characters from one place to the other, when it really doesn't matter, you know. It really is a need-to-know basis. And like, for example, when I worked with Lars von Trier, for example, we never rehearsed, and I don't ever remember having a stand-in, which I didn't think about it until after the film, that there was never a stand-in, because not only the actors weren't rehearsing, and neither was the camera operator. He wasn't rehearsing either, so we were all doing the same kind of dance. And what was wonderful about it was it was total freedom. I never found myself not worrying or thinking about, well, you know, I picked up the cup at this point, you know, stuff that really doesn't matter, you know. Yeah. And, you know, that was really great. So we're just free to do whatever it is that we want. And in that particular case, one of the things that I really I liked about that too was it was sort of like more like theater. So if I was doing a scene with the other actor, you know, there wasn't my coverage and then the other actor's coverage. We were doing it together, and which is the way it should always be. But it was in the style of the choosing of the way that he would shoot a scene. He would, if there was a scene where I had a large chunk of dialogue, which I did learn all my lines often, right? You know, he would, let's say, pan over from me to Riley Keough, right in the middle of my line. And you know, I have to be honest, as an actor, I am aware of the camera, and I remember thinking, that rude son of a bitch, man. I mean, this is my thing. But when you see that on screen, there's a connection because the other actor is there, and because there isn't a cut. Mm-hmm. There really is. So the tension is there, and the moment is there. And again, you know, when I worked with Lars, he said to me, you know, beforehand, he said, I'm going to shoot the film from a lot of different directions, and I'm going to put the camera in a lot of different places, and it's going to feel different in a way, but it's going to edit, and it's going to feel very in the moment because he edits emotionally. He does not. I mean, there's a lot of filmmakers like to do these fancy long shots, which I think is beautiful. Maybe a shot that is like probably spectacular, like that they're able to do a shot that runs 8 minutes without a cut.
Yeah.
But with him, he didn't care about that. He's going to run the scene for a very long time, but he's going to edit where he feels it's. And if it doesn't match, it doesn't matter, you know. And I love that. It was free. We were free as actors, and that was great.
What's it like on his film set in general?
Well, you know, I loved it because it was all about freedom. The movie that I did was incredibly dark, you know. But it was not dark, you know. On the environment on the set was very. We were free, you know. And, you know, one of the things before we started, you know, he asked that I trust him. And he said to me, why don't you try trusting me? And I hadn't even thought that I would not trust him. But I thought, you know what, I really like this guy, what he does with actors. And, you know, I'd seen so many actors in his film that really take risks. Mm-hmm. And they're rewarded for that risk because they took the risk. And I thought, why wouldn't I trust him? But no director ever asked me to trust him before. Right. And that was really interesting. And it's because he knew he was going to take me to some places that I was going to be a little uncomfortable. And so that was the foundation. And then his partner, Peter Ulrich, I think is his partner, he said, you know, he said about Lars, he'll never betray you. He'll never break his word. If he tells you something, that's his word, and that he's very honorable. And I found that to be the case. So I really enjoyed it, working with him.
I'm just thinking in those clips that we saw, like both are soundtracked quite heavily with music. Like we've got, in the first clip, there's that song Israelites, which is amazing, and then the Jimi Hendrix in the second clip. And you're quite big on music, is that right? You've got
sure. I mean,
for me,
For me, I love it. You know, it's a very important thing for me that I have very eclectic taste in music, and I've always had that, a love of music. I explore all types of music. I tend to not be so interested in music that was made before 1968. You know, if the music's more acoustic, I'm more interested in it. But it makes me think, I one time heard a story about a director asking a cinematographer about where was the light coming from, because the set had no apertures really to speak of, so there were no places to put lights, you know.
Right.
And so the director said, "Well, where's the light source? Where's the light coming from?" And the cinematographer said, "The same place the music's coming from." Right? Mm-hmm. Did you get that? I guess.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
No, it's good.
At the time, same place the music's coming from. That's movie magic, right?
And you get to choose your own music for your directorial.
Yeah,
review.
yeah, I did. It was very, you know, when I directed, you know, the best advice I ever got was not to compromise. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I took that and understood that to be, you know, if you can't get an actor or you can't get a location or you can't, don't settle for anything less than what it is, because there are other alternatives, and you just don't want to compromise that. And that was the case with the music because of licensing and budgets and those sort of things. So you know, if I couldn't get a Bix Beiderbecke song because it cost all this money, I'd find a Clarence Williams from the same period. And it worked great. It was better than the first choice. So, I mean, it's the same thing with locations and with actors and, yeah, and department heads and things like that.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe, should we send a second clip and we'll see what we've got there. Jacqueline, please. Oh, okay, we went straight to Crash.
Okay.
But fair enough. We're jumping all over the place.
What?
We're jumping all over the place, I guess, in your career, but that's fine.
Yeah. Well, so with that film, Crash, you know, you know, I like the character because of the paradox of this character. And, you know, I like that he was a racist character, and yet he found this other part of himself. You know, typically I'm more interested in discovering more about the character than the character discovering something about himself.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of emphasis put on that. But in this particular case, I like the paradoxical part of who this person was. And it was a good experience for me, I mean, to do that. I mean, it was great. I mean, the movie was incredibly well received at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were Oscar nominated.
Yeah, yep. And I really loved. Can I have
Tandy, when
another
you
cup of coffee, please? I'm forgetting everybody's name. But no, it was wonderful. You know, it was really great to work with these actors.
What is it that motivates you when you're choosing a film? Is it you looking at character and your own role, or is it more the project, the director? What's kind of motivating you?
Well, as I said, I really feel like you know, I'm as good as the directors that I'm working with. That's really important because I really do feel. I think my department as an actor is very important, but it's a director's medium. So that's first and foremost. But when you're talking about characters, you know, I think I'm more interested in a film that is about people, about characters, and not about the schematics of the plot. Because I think the story is coming from the people that are in the story, and often you'll get a script that it's actually the reverse of that. And not to say that I don't do those movies, because I have to go to work and that's what I do. But sometimes you do a job and it's really, like I said, working with Von Trier or, you know, Gus Van Sant and these types of filmmakers, you're doing something that's really outside of the norm, outside of the box. And that's not like work. I mean, it is, we're working very hard, but it's an enjoyable experience that's really fulfilling. And then there's other times you just have to show up and do your job and deliver a performance. And that's important too, you know. And again, the focus for me really comes down to what's important to me is the character.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, the script, the story is so important. I have a friend of mine who teaches at NYU in the graduate program, and he said all of his students, and his students that have done very well, and he said they're always asking about when do I start writing the story, and he tells them, you know, just focus on the backstory of the characters. And I totally understand that, because that's where your characters are gonna begin to tell you, you know, what the story is, you know? So that's where you look for really great characters, you know?
I feel like one of your strengths as an actor is that we sort of naturally, I think, we kind of want to trust you, and you sort of generate that sort of feeling. I think.
Don't do it. Don't
anyway,
do it.
I do
no,
anyway.
It's okay.
But then, and then there are these. I think that gives you an ability to kind of find those hidden depths and sort of surprise us with that. Does that feel about right, or? Have I completely gone crazy?
Yeah, but would you trust the character I played in the house that Jack built? I don't think so, you know.
Well, exactly. So I think you're kind of like defeating our expectations of you.
Well, you know, I think, you know, I don't remember who quoted this, and I'll misquote it, but there was a quote, I don't know if it was Tolstoy or who it was, but he said, you know, the terrible thing is that everybody has their reasons, you know. Mm-hmm. And I take that to be character logic, right? I mean, you might... You pick up the newspaper or you look at the news and somebody's done something and you completely don't understand. It seems irrational that they would do it, and maybe it is irrational, but there's a logic. There's a logic to that human being, that the reason they did that, there's a reason for why they did that. Mm-hmm. And so if I come from that, like if we talked about Crash, for example, this character was bitter, he was angry, he was racist. He felt like he was the victim. Mm-hmm. You know, he felt like he was the victim. He didn't, he wasn't a perpetrator in his mind, you know. He was a victim of society, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny, I was just thinking, looking at your career, like, you don't have any, like, very, very big budget movies in there that I can tell? Like, what's your biggest budget film that you've done?
That's where the money is, right?
Yeah, you don't want to make money. What is it?
No, you know, of course we do, right? But I don't know, maybe it just worked out. I've been in some big budgeted movies, and I will say that, to be perfectly honest with you, the smaller films that I've done, look at this kitty up here. Isn't that
Hello,
marvelous?
darling.
Yeah, I love this. Whose cat is
just
that?
hope the cat can come over here. That would be really nice. Just having, that would be a great place for it there.
Yeah.
We'll see.
What were we saying?
I can't remember. Big budgets.
Oh, big budget movies, yeah. Yeah. But, you know, I was just saying that I really... Psst, psst, psst. Meow.
Baby. Come over here. Sweetheart.
What do they say? Children and animals, right? They say don't ever shoot anything with
yeah.
children.
What were you saying? It's gone. Unbelievable.
How about that cat?
Wow. Scene stealing, it's unbearable. And so, yeah, so I suppose that kind of like, that indie scene has taken you recently to work with Wes Anderson. That's a new one for you?
Yeah, again, he's a friend of mine, and if Wes asked me to show up, I'm going to show up, right? Because I think the guy is a guy with a voice, and he's a wonderful, talented, brilliant guy, filmmaker, you know, and, you know, he wouldn't let me leave, though, and, you know, he would hear me, like, I did my scenes, or the scenes that I did, and he'd be in this room above the courtyard, and I'd be talking about my flight, what time I'm getting picked up, and then I'd hear Wes go, you know, hey, Matt, you think you could stick around till Thursday? I got a scene. I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll stick around for you. But it was great. It was a great cast of characters. You know, he's very specific about what he wants. And, you know, Tilda and I had a scene together. I think it got cut from the film with Jeffrey Wright. And you don't want to be the last guy to have a chunk of dialogue in the scene.
Yeah.
Because it's tough. He likes everything at a really rapid pace. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very specific, and it's great. I mean, that's the way, I don't know how you follow it with subtitles. It's so fast. He would say, yeah, I need it to be much faster. And I'd be like, I don't think I could say it any faster than I just did. Your mind can't think so fast. But you know what? He's really wonderful, and he's a great atmosphere working with him on his films, you know.
Do you feel, is there like a kind of pressure to fit into, because he's got quite a firm visual sense of how everything's going to look, right? So you kind of need to slot into that vision.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's when you're working with a filmmaker like that, where, what do they say, in for a penny, in for a pound, and you know, it's their vision, so it makes your job easy in a way, because he knows what he wants, and so we're all of the cast, we're in the same boat, and that's what I remember Tilda saying, hey, we're all in this together, because it has its own challenges, that working in his style, But you know, it's like what Von Trier said to me when I was working with him, and I said, "Really? Do you think this is like, what do you know?" I would question, something about a particular scene, which happened not that much, but probably could have happened more. And he said, "Oh, you know what? Just blame me, just blame Lars." And I said, "Okay, that's what I'm going to do if they question that." So it's the same thing. I mean, if you're working with a filmmaker with a voice, you can kind of go along with it. And I think that's the greatest thing you can do as an actor, is to support the filmmaker, in their vision. You know, the thing that I really love, and I don't do it enough, and I don't get to do it enough, is to really disappear. I think this is the greatest thing. It's the most fulfilling thing, is to really disappear in the character, to become somebody else. That's something so great about that. It's so, I mean, we're fortunate to be able to do that. In maybe other professions, people don't get to do that, or they do, but not without repercussions.
Yeah. So what's that about? That's the writing that allows you to do that? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's the writing. And sometimes, if you want to do something different, sometimes you can get resistance. Like I was going to do a film. I mean, I was talking to this director about doing a film. And I got the sense, because the character I thought was really good on the page, I liked the character because it would have been something where I could really, there's our friend, the cat.
Yeah, where is
and,
it?
And he's over here, off stage. And but I could tell she kind of wanted me to go in a direction of some place I'd been, was to play another serial killer. And I said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to saw somebody. I don't want to play somebody who saws off somebody's head. I didn't want to do it. And I got the feeling that she wanted to take the character and make it more of what was close to me, rather than for me to become more, hey kitty, maybe more of what I want, the direction of the character that was on the page.
Right. Yeah. Should we take a third clip, maybe? We're zooming through, because I'm pretty sure this will be the house that Jack built, I believe. Jacqueline, please.
Full Metal Jackets.
Yeah, that's a...
Well, I mean, you saw there that he did a jump cut, right?
Yeah.
And I love that, that his performance can be unadulterated, and he can decide what he wants to do with that. But you do that when you trust the director. So when he asked that of me, I knew that I could. I mean, I don't know that you can trust every director, because it's their taste, it's the choices that they make, But it was great, And sometimes he would say to me, "Yeah, he would like an idea that I had, but he said the scene is already weird enough." This will just take it in a direction that goes a little too weird. But, it's paying attention. I think that's the key. And the good directors that I've worked with, it's no coincidence that they are up front with the performers. Even if they're not an actor's director, they're not hiding behind the camera. This is my point.
Yeah. In the house that Jack built, this is maybe going to sound dumb, but did you enjoy the chance to kind of not be hot? Is that like?
What are you saying?
To be less hot than usual.
Did you like
Jesus.
those glasses? How about that clear plastic raincoat I was wearing?
Well, I'm sure that does it for some people.
You know what was fun for that was the choices that we made, like in the costume. Like the character has obsessive compulsive. So in the beginning, he's very buttoned down and very, hey there, kitty. But by the end of it, he wants to get caught. So he's sort of being really reckless and clumsy, and even in the way he dresses, and even in that scene, it's much later. He's really coming apart. He's not sleeping because he wants. So it was really the choices that we made with the costume were they weren't something that was commented on, but they were really choices, you know?
Yeah.
And so you might not be aware that that's what's happening, but you are aware subconsciously in a way, you know?
If I could just ask you about kind of between films, like, I don't know, like looking at your filmography and kind of, you know, your public persona, I feel like you're someone with just like a nice life, you know, like you seem to kind of do what you want. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I probably would say that maybe my greatest talent or whatever would be my curiosity. I don't know if you call that talent, but you know, I have interest. I mean, you know, I have interest in music, in art. I paint. You know, I draw. I love taking pictures, and I'm very visual, and I know that about myself, which is why I liked making films in a way as a director. I made one documentary. It was about music, and it was really my obsession with a certain kind of Afro-Cuban music, and I knew when I took it on that it would be really something that would really eat up my time, but it was something I had to do. And so I jumped into it, and then like an idiot, I decided to become encyclopedic on the subject, you know, and interview everybody and really get into it. But it was, for me, it was important, and you know, because I'm curious, you know, I think that's probably the thing that I would say that if I could say is probably my best quality is that I am curious.
Yeah. You had to
And
scratch the
let's
itch.
just say I'm obsessive.
Right.
Okay, I'm the first to. I'm an obsessive human being, and that's not necessarily always a good thing. But I you know, because but the flip side of that is passion, creativity. That's the flip side of it. The other side is the obsessive part, which can get a little bit, well, interesting.
And just as an actor, like, do you feel, is it possible to feel that you're kind of in control of your career, or do you feel like you're not quite sure where it may go next, or how do you deal with those feelings of like, you know, what you want to do and projects that may come your way? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the tough job of an actor, really, is that we're really reliant. I mean, filmmaking in general, that's why I paint, because there's more of an immediacy to that. And, you know, the reason I directed the film that I brought here in 2002 or whatever it was because I wanted to be in a film that I would want to be in.
Right.
You know, I wanted to make a film that I would want to do. And it happened to me because I became depressed because I didn't get a job that I didn't even want. So there was a job, and I'm not going to say what it was, but I didn't even want to do the job. But somebody else got the job, and I became depressed about it.
When was this? 2000, 2001?
Yeah, it doesn't make. It was like it was in the '90s actually.
All right.
And so I realized that I had lost the plot and what was important to me. So that's when I started this journey to make my own film. You know, and so I don't feel like I do necessarily have control over where it's going, but I think this is a problem, let's say problem, but it's a reality in the film industry in general. You know, if you look at an artist like a composer or an author or a painter, they can have a very great late period in their career. They can go, and actors can too, but it's easier to have a great late period.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When we think about, we've seen so many authors and painters really do some of their best work later. It's difficult for a filmmaker because there's so many moving parts that have to come together for that person to create the thing that they're creating.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
you need to have the hunger as well to...
Well, the hunger, but I
through.
think because it's very difficult. I mean, if you're making a personal film, it's very difficult because at every step of the way, you know, you have to have a certain amount of good fortune. And so in the end, you only have the journey, you only have the experience of what it is you're doing. But I'm empathetic toward older filmmakers because we're in an industry that is very, I want to say maybe it's ageist, maybe it's, because I've seen it with talented older filmmakers have a difficult time getting their work made, and maybe these are the people that should be heard because they've got. As we get older, I think maybe there's a lot of things that suck about getting older, but one of the good things is you can handle complexity in a way, and so these artists, these filmmakers, I would like to see their voices be heard. You know, I mean, it's nice. There's great for young filmmakers. It's very exciting for them, but some of the older filmmakers who've made really good work. I mean, there's a lot of. Okay, we can go on this subject forever, but
well, it's just tricky because the film industry has changed so much, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how those voices get lost, I guess, is in kind of digital and also the rise of like film franchises, right? They're crushing.
Yeah, it always changes, but I think, you know, the thing to really focus on is like, that's not my job, that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is as a creative person, whether it's as an actor or a writer or whatever it is, that's not my job to deal with that. And fortunately, things change, but you know, okay, so now it's streaming, right? But what's one of the good things about streaming is the character you can breathe. The character can have a life. It's not based on this idea of a 3-act structure. Because life is not a 3-act structure, you know? Yeah. And so your character can, you know, develop over time. I think that's a really good thing for actors. It's a really good medium for actors.
So you're looking for a TV show?
Yeah, can you tell? No, I mean, listen, I'm going to be honest. These festivals are so important because this is where the magic is, really, for me. Cinema, movies, this is really where it's at. I mean, the really exciting experiences are here in these rooms, you know, with the lights out, all experiencing a film together. Those are the experiences that stay with me, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Should we send our fourth clip? Let's see what we've got, please, Jacqueline.
It's fun. Fun making that movie.
It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Was that like something that you were looking for, a chance to kind of flex some comedy muscle?
Yeah. I mean, I love that. And you know what's good about comedy? I mean, one of the things is you can't avoid, you know, doing the character work, you know, in a way. It's like you really have to put yourself in that character, and you know, you got to break the rules. I mean, one of the things I remembered when we did that sequence. You know, I felt like these guys want to go play golf, man. You know, I said, why aren't they shooting this thing, getting the most out of it? But I learned something, that in comedy, things play really well in the wide. You know, when we see, you know, even going back to Buster Keaton, you know, comedies really work well in the wide. So they didn't need to do that, and they understood that. I didn't understand that, you know. Right. But it was a lot of fun. You know, it's one of those things. This script was so good, and the movie was good, and the movie every step of the way. And sometimes that's the way it goes. You know, I have a friend of mine. He's a painter. He says, you know, the thing about a painting is it's good at every step of the way. I don't agree with that, but it's an interesting point of view. And sometimes that happens. The painting is good when it's there in the beginning, and it can be that way. You know, it can be good every step of the way. It's same thing with a film. You know.
Sorry, just to go back, when you say in the wide, do you mean like in the wide frame? Is that right? Everything playing out and being visible at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, sort of like when you're watching a play, you know. You see full figure. It's not tight shots. It's not this, you know. Yeah. It's not tight pieces of coverage. It plays in the wide. I mean. These guys were not doing some kind of experimental auteur. They were shooting it in a very conventional way. But a lot of it plays in the wide, and it works quite well. And I remember thinking, well, why aren't they covering it? What are they? And he's like, oh, these guys just want to fucking go play golf. But that wasn't the case. They knew that. They understood that. You know?
Yeah. I suppose you've got filmmakers now are kind of more used to, like, you're able to cut more and film more scenes because of digital. So I feel like filmmakers now, do you notice that on sets? Are sort of making more shots?
Well, now they come up and they direct you, but they like keep the camera rolling and they come up and they'll direct you for 10 minutes and the camera's rolling. And I think of the editor's got to like trim that down. But yeah, I mean, it depends on the filmmakers, you know? It really does. I mean, you know, some directors, they don't trust. You know, they want to cover it. A lot of comedy directors are that way. They want to cover it every which way, and because they don't know what's going to work, right? So they want to, you know. But yeah, digital is the new. But you know, I think in the beginning, the idea of shooting in these other formats, you know, and it was the idea that it would give you some freedom. But then it becomes more complicated. In the end, we always manage to make it more complicated. You know, trying to make it simple, it ends up becoming more complicated. I guess that's human nature, you know.
Yeah. I'm realizing now that I haven't asked you anything about Factotum, the film that you made in the year's gone now, but it's like 2004, right? Something along those lines?
Yeah, somewhere around that. 2005.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's Bukowski, and I feel like you also did the voiceover for On the Road, right?
Yeah, I did do that.
That feels like the same kind of ballpark of writer. I just wondered, like, if that kind of Beat Generation means something to you.
Well, I mean, for example, like with Factotum, I mean, that was one of those experiences again where it was not like a job. I mean, the movie was made for nickels, you know, was made for nothing, and I didn't ever imagine that I would play. You know, Henry Chinaski in a film. You know, I never imagined that because I think I'm way too good looking to play Bukowski's alter ego. No, that's not really why, but I think it's because I experienced reading his prose when I was very young, and I loved it, and I loved the irreverence of it. But you know, I never read his poetry until I did that film, and so when I was really interested, I really liked the surprise. Sometimes you get these surprises, and it's very exciting. And so I spoke to Linda Bukowski, and she said, "You will be a great Hank." And I said, "But what about, you know?" I said, "Well, as long as it's not like an impersonation, or I'm not really having to become Bukowski." She goes, "No, wait, this is absolutely autobiographical. This is Hank. This is really Hank." And she told me he was not interested in appearance, you know. He was not interested in beauty, you know. But she did say he was all about the hair, you know.
Oh, yeah?
So I got into that. He was combing his hair and his shirts, you know. You know, but what happened to me is I never thought of him as an ambitious human being, you know, when I read the prose, because it was always drinking and screwing and, you know, all the great stuff, and I loved it, you know, and I think he's even better. I think he gets better with age. But, you know, the poetry, man. I mean, Bukowski's an incredible poet, and there's so much soul in his poetry, and it really moved me, you know. And it's where I discovered the soul of this guy, and he was ambitious. He was ambitious to be respected as an author, you know. He really wanted that, and that sort of passed me by. I sort of overlooked. I didn't see that when I was younger, but you know. And so at age when I did that, and I think it was 41, 40 years old, you know. It was pointed out to me that, hey, you are at the age when he was going through that. In fact, told him. Anyway, I love making that, and it was great. We had Lily Taylor, was really great.
She's amazing.
Yeah, really, really great actors. So many good actors doing, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But that director is very minimal in his moves and everything that he does, and you know, and the only directors that ever ask me to slow it down are Scandinavian directors. You know, you deal with American directors, and they're always like, "Well, you did something with the pacing," and I'm like, "That's not my job, man. You know, pacing's not my job. You fix that, man."
The Scandis are more chill.
Scandinavians, and I'd be like, "Wow, we're not doing any coverage, and they're asking me to slow." I mean, Lars von Trier said to me, much, much, much slower, It's the opposite of Wes, you know? And he said, and at one point he came to me and he said, I want you to think about what you're going to say before you say it, and then I want you to think about what you said after you said it. And it was very interesting. It was very specific, and it was really a kind of, I liked doing that. It was just a different, made me mindful, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say before I say it to you, right? I'm just saying it. But however, that was an interesting thing to do in a performance.
Going back to that Bukowski thing that you mentioned, that desire for recognition and for, I suppose, what is it, awards or I don't know what it was.
Yeah. No, I don't think he wanted awards. I don't think it was about the cash and prizes. I don't think it was about that. I think it's this impulse for creative people. To be creative, I do believe, and I don't want to sound pretentious or anything, but it's an act of generosity, right? So what he did was a very generous thing, to give of himself in that way. And I mean, at that particular point in his life, he was down and out, he was struggling, and he just wanted to work as a writer, He wanted to work as a writer. He didn't want to work, and that's what that film is about. He's getting fired from every job, but all he wants to do is get paid as a reporter, working for a newspaper or something. And this is a big deal for him. And I think that's, it was commendable of him, that he was willing to make that sacrifice for himself as an artist, as a writer, and but he did all kinds of dead-end jobs, which served him as a writer. And in that particular, I mean, he made Post Office, which was all about that. But it was a wonderful thing to be able to walk in those shoes. And you mentioned, Jack Kerouac and doing the reading of On the Road. That was a great privilege for me to do that, because I love Jack and I feel Jack in my heart. I truly do. And it was beautiful to be able to do that. And Walter Salles told me, and he said to me, the greatest experience I had reading that book was listening to your reading of it when I was crossing the country, which meant a lot to me, Yeah. I mean, I knew William Burroughs, I knew Bill Burroughs, I knew these people, and it's such a, it's difficult with that book when you're doing a reading of it. The syntax is very unorthodox, so you commit to one thing, and it takes a turn, and then you have to redo what you said. But it was enjoyable. I enjoyed doing that, reading. And I've always enjoyed doing reading. I don't think they call them books on tape anymore, because nobody listens to tape anymore. But
audiobooks, though.
Audiobooks, yeah, I guess others call it now, yeah.
What is it about Kerouac, then, that you kind of related to? Is it, I suppose, like a nice, we see this in your filmography as well, it's kind of like a sort of freewheeling spirit, and kind of, I mean, when you were talking about that first director that you worked with, and having that kind of like rapport of, calling you cocksuckers and stuff, like that's kind of.
He was the best.
That's an energy that's kind of fallen by the wayside a bit now, right?
Huh? Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, with Jack, there's also a great degree of empathy for what he went through. That book is not about the 1950s. That book is about the 1940s, but it didn't get published until the 1950s. And at that point, I think he'd had his ass kicked by the system or whatever, And so, I don't know. I just and it's the writing, man, the spirit of it, He really bears his soul, He put his life into that book, and you feel that.
Yeah.
You feel that. I was going to say, you asked about that director, Jonathan Kaplan. I want to just say this, that those first people that I worked with, I was very fortunate, because they were very principled people. And the reason they were principled people is because they came from a background. They were what we call red diaper babies, right? Their parents were communists that were blacklisted. They were communist people, And these were the people. The director, Jonathan's father, was blacklisted. He was a composer. He was a composer for film scores. And the writer, Tim Hunter, his father was a great screenwriter, was blacklisted. And our acting coach, who was an actress in the film, her husband was black. So these people came from that world, you know, and they were very principled, but they were also very suspicious of the system, the Hollywood system, you know. But they were principled, and I think I was fortunate to be around those people.
Yeah.
You know.
Just for the audience, I'm not sure everybody knows, but so that's during the McCarthyist.
Okay, during the House of Un-American Activities, the Red Scare in the 1950s in Hollywood, people were being blacklisted, you know, because they had participated in, you know, maybe they had gone to maybe they were communists, or maybe they had been associated, gone to communist meetings during the Depression, when everybody was looking for something. Nobody was working, so they needed to be a part of something, or whatever it was. But, you know, a lot of people caved in, they gave names, and the people that I worked with were staunch. They would not cave into that, you know. And, you know, listen, I see it today, man. I think we're in danger with censorship, you know. I really think we are, man. People are unable to voice what it is they want to say. And I think it's frightening, and I think it's dangerous.
Do you mean with online culture particularly?
You know, the idea of people being canceled, you know. What is this? Canceled, man. Professors, you know, or people. You know, and the people that are doing it, I don't think they realize. There's a lot of young people that don't realize. For me, it's very important to be able to speak free, freely, and I think it's very. And working with one of the things Stellan Skarsgård said to me before I worked with Lars, I said, I want to find out. And he said, anybody can say whatever they want, and there's an egalitarian vibe on the set, you know. And I think it's really important that we have to feel safe, that we can express our views, you know, whatever it is. You don't have to like it, you don't have to agree with it. And sometimes we really don't agree with it, but I think it's getting a little dangerous.
It's hard to find that balance, isn't it? Because you obviously want creative freedom to allow you to access whatever emotions and stories you want, and at the same time, like, obviously, filmmakers are bound by, you know, laws.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's always a shift. So in some ways, maybe the things that are happening now with what I'm expressing, the fear of censorship, maybe those are good things. Maybe they're freeing up society in some ways. We know that has happened throughout history. I mean, the things that were acceptable when my parents were younger are not acceptable. Some things are not acceptable today, and maybe some of the things that were acceptable are not acceptable, or some of the things that weren't are now acceptable, and that's going to shift maybe in many ways. I mean, we're only here for a short time. How do we know, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like maybe it's time to open this up to questions from the audience. If anybody's got anything they want to say, I guess put your hand up, and we'll come over to you with questions. Who am I going to pick? This person with the cap here on the right.
Hello, Matt. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi.
So, first of all, I am surprised because you are in front of me. So
I'm sorry, can you just speak up a little more?
So I say I am surprised because you are in front of me. I say many of your films and many of your acts. Two questions. First one, Coppola gave you a big chance. Will he give, as a director, a big chance to young actors? Yeah? And do you see yourself more filmmakers or series maker? So
I only got part of it, but I think what you said was that I Coppola, right?
Yeah.
It was a great opportunity for me, but then you said something else and I didn't understand.
Will you give the same chance as a director to young actors?
Oh,
Yeah.
Give the same chance.
Yeah.
Oh, I love working with
Yeah.
actors, man. As a director, I really love it because I feel a responsibility
Yes.
for those performances, and I feel like I want them to feel safe with me. And I worked in the film that I made, the first film that I made in Cambodia. I worked with so many people that had never even seen a movie before. And I wanted them to be free, you know? And so I had the third biggest character in the movie, had never seen a movie before. And he was a wonderful, did such a good job. And I realized, you know, they had scheduled a rehearsal for me with this guy, and I was location scouting, and I knew this was going to be a waste of time, that he was very talented and very smart, but I needed him to be directable. And I said, and I called the line producer, and he said, well, fire him right away and bring Robert in from Long Beach. I said, no, we're not going to fire him. We need to find somebody who can help him. I don't want them to teach him to act. I want him to teach him to feel confident that he could come onto the set, and all he needed to know were the intentions. He didn't need to know the dialogue of what he was doing. He just needed to, yep.
Such as you work with big names now, Tom Cruise, Rob, in The Outsiders.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's a long time, in '83. So
Yeah.
thank you, and as a request, because I'm a fan of you, if you may have a picture with you in the end. Thank you. I know the whole, they want picture, but I will be the first. Okay.
You'll have to join the queue. But you got a hell of a cast for the film that you directed. Because like Stellan Skarsgård and Gerard Depardieu, like that's some like those are two. Like we were talking about that
James
earlier.
Caan.
Like, yeah, James Caan. I mean, these are all
Natasha
actors.
McElhone.
Yeah. I mean, but those three, James Caan included, yeah, like those are very free actors, I think. Like very like those are giants who kind of do things their own way, right? Was that like, how do you direct people like that?
Well, you know, because I've experienced, I didn't have any rehearsal time because the actors weren't there. And so my approach was that I had to be an actor first. I had to be able to be prepared to do, because the director doesn't have a specific job. The job is the whole movie.
Yeah.
And so I would really, when I would go on a location scout, I would really apply myself. And I would put myself in the headspace of each of the characters just to get a sense. I mean, it wasn't locked in, but to get a sense of what would be needed. And I knew that the actors would be really happy with that. Because actors just want to feel safe.
Yeah.
They want to feel like the director is thinking about what their character is doing. And I knew that, you know, and I got that from Stellan and Gerard. Jimmy Caan, less so, but he was great. He gave me, you know, listen, I learned from all of these guys. I learned from all of these actors, and you know, it was really great. I mean, I'd written the scene in the movie where James Caan's character has to sing karaoke in Khmer, in the Cambodian language. I wrote it. I didn't know if he would want to do that or was able to do that. And I said that to him, and he said, Matt, why do you think I took the fucking job? Because that's what he wanted to do. He was in love with the idea of doing something different, and I know he loved to sing as well.
Well, can we take another question from the audience? Wow, somebody literally stood up. I think let's go to... I won't forget the back, don't worry, my love. Okay, can we go to this person with the beard just there in the second row?
I'm coming to you to get the...
How about we come to you in a little while?
Okay.
Maybe
All right.
you can hear me.
Yeah, sure. But I think they called on this, but you know, maybe we'll get to this guy after.
Exactly.
He's very
Let's go
determined,
to you
know?
afterwards, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, Matt. I thank you so much that to be here,
Yeah.
and thank you so much for the beautiful conversation. Yeah, my question is, did you had before anime's success in your life before, like in this beautiful experience that you had? Thank you.
Before I became an actor?
Yeah.
Well, I was such a young actor. I can tell you, I had one job. I was a paper boy, and I failed at that. So I don't know what would have become of me if I wasn't an actor. I think, God was looking after me when he gave me that gig, because I don't know what I would have done. And so, yeah, I wasn't very successful at much before then.
Something creative, though, probably.
I remember just feeling like my whole life would be a recession, because I grew up as a kid during 2 recessions, and I thought, well, that's what life is, And life got better, right? And I had other issues, but I won't go into that.
Okay, we'll leave that there. I'm going to go for a hand in the middle, that person with the glasses that I'm pointing to just there.
Hello, thank you so much for the great conversation, and it's a pleasure to see you in person.
Thank you.
So I have 2 questions. The first is, you said this very interesting comment about the fact that you feel like you don't sometimes disappear in the character. And I was wondering, what is your take on method acting, actually? Because it's a very controversial way of acting. Some people love it, some people hate it. And my second question would be, what has being a screenwriter and a painter brought you as a performer, and vice versa?
Screenwriting and what?
And painting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the first question, I think quite simply to me, I guess method acting is working from the inside, inside out, as opposed to externally. But I think whatever works for you, whatever works, and it's very personal, and that's how I approach it. Whatever works for me, So the other question that you asked was painting and writing. Well, that's a really good question, actually, because writing is great. I like writing very much. I think I'm a fertile, if I'm anything, in terms of my ideas and my opportunism of, like, I see something and I feel like it should be absorbed, And as far as painting goes, well, this is great, man, because Lars von Trier, and it's a Danish word. It's not a real word. It's a slang. It says "husk og sjusk," which translates to mean to keep it messy, to remember to draw outside the lines, right? And that we did in the film, and that was the mantra, that was the slogan, that's the way we worked. It was very messy in a good way. But it's the same thing when I'm drawing and painting, I remember those words, And I am a believer in that it's better, I try not to be a control freak, because I think that hurts creativity. I think you have to let go and then be able to make a mess and get lost. And, but I'm sometimes a control freak, and I don't mean to be. I'm not a control freak, but I try to, but it's a good thing to remember to keep it messy, to keep things messy,
All right, can we have...
And I don't even know what that means to draw outside the lines, because which is the outside and which is the inside, but it's something to think about when you're working.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's have some more questions. Let's go to the middle there. Person with the cap, please.
Yeah, hi. I still keep your performance in Rumblefish as a dream sequence since my youth age, and thank you for that. You keep talking about Jack Kerouac with passion, also with Bukowski and William Burroughs. These guys were chasing this thin line between dream and reality all their lives. Were you also chasing that in your career as an actor?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question about dreams and reality, and I mean, I think deep down I'm a romantic person. And so I can dream. I think I can be a dreamer. And I think it's a really good thing if you can bring that to life. So if you say that about those people, I think I would agree with that. That Jack Kerouac was really, he had something he wanted to say. He had an America that he wanted to show. And I guess, yeah, he was romantic in that way. He maybe saw things differently than maybe the reality of what they were. Or in his reality, he got filtered through what he was doing. I can't speak for that, but in terms of the writing, that's what I get. But I guess I am a little bit of a, yeah, I'm a bit of a dreamer, yeah.
Okay, let's go for 2 more questions. Person at the back just there. Pink top.
I just wanted to say that I was really touched by the man that came up and said that he was glad that you were alive. And I want to just say that, you know, I'm glad that you are here on this planet and that you're alive, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. That's very nice. You know, I really appreciate that. Seriously. Because there's people that I feel that way about. And there's people I feel that way about who've left us that I've learned a lot from and that I've taken a lot from. So I'm happy to hear that, you know. Yeah.
Let me go with the person in the back row with the beard. Or you, sure.
Yeah. Matt Dillon, welcome to Morocco. My name is Shifa, I'm a doctor, and I love being here in this festival. So my question to you is, have you seen any Moroccan movies or Moroccan filmmakers? If so, what did you like the most about them? Thank you.
I'm embarrassed to say that I can't think of any Moroccan films that I've seen, but I'm looking forward to that. I cannot think of right now.
Yeah, they put you on the spot with that one.
Yeah, you put me on the spot with that. But there's one I think that's playing. It was playing right before here.
The Mother of All Lies.
The Mother of All Lies, which I hear is incredible. It's a Moroccan film.
Yeah, it is. And there's Hounds playing here as well, which is wonderful.
Well, yeah, and I look forward to that. And again, I apologize. It's just something that I haven't seen many. I can't think of any I've seen right this moment.
No worries. Okay, I think we're going to make this the last question. This desperate person in the middle, please.
Hello, Matt. I will to thank you. I thank you for to give us this opportunity for to see you in front of me. My question is, if I remember, you participate with your voice in Simpson in episode 19. Can you tell us with this?
What was it?
Episode 19 of what?
Episode 19. Simpsons.
Of The Simpsons.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I did that. I was a truck driver. I think I forget somebody the truck driver. Yeah, it was fun. I like doing voiceover work. It's fun. It's totally freeing to do voiceover work. You can do whatever you want. You know.
When you go in, do you meet do you act with the Simpsons guys?
I mean, I got to be honest with you. I haven't watched The Simpsons that much. I just did it because I thought it would be cool to do a Simpsons voiceover.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I think we're going to be closing down now. But thank you very much for all your questions, and a big round of applause for Matt Dillon, please.